Welcome to the Deal Finder Corner. So this is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter and hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman, CEO and co-founder at Property Filter, the UK's highest rated platform to find deals. And we are on a mission to empower our property investor and deal sourcer members to find another 1,000 deals this year, thanks to the Property Filter blueprint. The purpose with this Deal Finder Corner is to give you more and the best of the available resources by inviting expert guests who will share with you the latest and most current strategies, tactics, and secrets about what actually works right now in terms of finding and making deals and the reality of systemizing and running a high-performance business in property. So it really is my pleasure to reintroduce to you all my very good friend on today's Deal Finder Corner, Mr. Mark Shaw. So Mark is the self-proclaimed lifestyle investor. So he's been investing in property from his laptop using creative solutions for many, many years. He started his career building and operating estate and letting agencies since I think it was 2003, if I remember well. He's invested for himself in well over 25 years. His knowledge and experience has been gained working with all types of market, with doing real deal with agents, vendors, landlords, buyers, contractors, and investors. Mark is now retired and financially independent, but he remains very active in the market, both as an investor and as a property coach and trainer, running the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind program twice a year. I think it's a 6 months program and starts in January and June, if I remember well. So really, really happy to have Mark again. So as I said earlier, these are always very well received. And the Property Filter community always is asking for more. So thank you for coming back. So what we can expect from today's episode. So Mark's going to share with us how you can identify opportunities, or you can find and spot assisted sale opportunities, or you can engage effectively with the vendors, the agents, and master techniques on how to explain the assisted sales to the different people you speak with, and or you can boost your the conversation and conversions to unlock more of these opportunities and make them convert into real deal on the other side. So, and hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A, and yeah, it should be awesome. So I'm very much looking forward from today hearing another aspects of market expertise today on the Deal Finder Corner. So please give a massive Property Filter virtual welcome to Mr. Mark Shaw. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for inviting me back for a third time. As is just referred to, my name is Mark Shaw. I'm a self-proclaimed lifestyle investor, which basically means that I invest solely from my laptop now. I don't go out to properties. I tend to do a lot of joint ventures. And literally most of my deals are all sort of low money down creative structures now. So why I'm here today, and why you should really be listening to me, is this 25 years in experience. When somebody's been investing in 25 years, they obviously learn a lot. They go through different markets, they find out what works, and they always go back to the same thing that's worked for them at the beginning. So although you've got all these new things that come out, the commercial conversions and serviced accommodation, it always goes back to the fundamentals of property investing. And probably the most fundamental that everybody will, already know of is to flip a property. You buy a property, you do it up, and then you sell it on for a profit. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, how to actually do that in the most optimal way. So a bit about myself. As we've already referred to, I've built and owned estate agencies for a long time. And although I've retired and sold them on now, everything that I talked to you today about, I've learned on the front line. When I'm talking to you about how to put offers in to agents, it's because I've been on the other end of those emails when people have been putting offers into me. So I know what works. So as I've built my portfolio, it's really learning what I've picked up in the industry and what I've sort of created myself. I've currently got over 90 individual properties, and I'm still buying today and I'm still selling. And assisted sales is one of the fundamental routes I go to. It's just that most of the times, rather than flipping the property on, I will end up refinancing them and just build the portfolio a little bit bigger. So now I'm financially free, but I continue to invest, because when you enjoy something, And when you're good at something, and when something's not taking so much of your time up, and it's not taking your finances up, then why wouldn't you continue? So what we're actually looking at today is optimizing flips through what we call assisted sales. Or what I want everybody to understand is we never use the term assisted sale. We always talk in the language of delayed completions. Okay, estate agents will understand a delayed completion. Vendors will understand delayed completions. Assisted sale, you know, that's terminology you don't really want to use, but I'm going to use it today for our own purposes. We're going to look at specifically how to find them using Property Filter. We're going to look at how you actually explain an assisted sale to an estate agent or to a vendor. Because unless that estate agent understands the concept that you're talking to them about, they won't put your offer forward. You'll get feedback saying, oh, I had a word with the vendor, he's not interested, he just wants a straight sale. All that really means is the estate agent didn't understand how to communicate it. And the reason the estate agent didn't understand is because you didn't make that estate agent understand. And then with all this, you're going to increase your conversion rate. So there's little tips that I can go through where it will increase your conversion rate on assisted sales, but also on other delayed completions such as lease options, which is kind of tied into an assisted sale. So I'm actually getting into it now. So the way that you need to consider an assisted sale is basically a flip, but without ownership. So normally with a flip, what you're doing is you're buying the property, you're tying up your funds or raising finance, you're paying stamp duty, and then you're going to do the work. So you're tying up more funds, and then you're going to sell the property on. So it's probably going to take you around about 9 months before you get access to your funds. Okay. With an assisted sale, you're never buying the property. So it's so much quicker. You're not tying up your funds buying the property up. We look at this as a short-term delayed completion. And the period of delay is long enough for you to actually refurbish the property, advertise it on the market with an estate agent with a view to selling it. So really you want a minimum of 9 months. It might only take you 6 to 8 weeks to do the refurbishment and get it back on the market, but you don't know who's going to be buying that property. You don't know whether they're going to be in a chain or whether they're going to have issues getting a mortgage. So that extra time is just really to cover you. But in my experience, the average assisted sale is probably about 6 to 7 months before you get your money back. And then once you've done the work, you're just going to instruct an estate agent and, you know, they're going to find you a buyer. You're the one that decides whether to sell it at that price that you've been offered. And if you are in agreement, then what happens is the person that you've agreed the assisted sale with, the original vendor, is still the vendor. So all that will happen is the estate agent will draft up a memorandum of sale between the vendor and your buyer. Anything above the purchase price that you've agreed, you will receive on completion. Okay, so I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail, just really giving you an overview at the moment of what an assisted sale is. So anything above that figure is your profit, but your profit's always going to be higher because you never bought the property. So you've not tied up funds or paid bridging. You've never bought the property, so you've not paid stamp duty. Your investment in this property is literally the cost of the refurbishment. And if you're smart, you might want to joint venture with the contractor. The contractor pays for the refurbishment. So your entire investment in this assisted sale is 50% of the legal fees, £600. So it really is low money down. So just a very basic overview is once you've agreed the assisted sale, the delayed completion with the vendor, either directly or through an agent, you're just going to instruct the solicitors as anybody would do on a purchase. And you're going to draft a single document with the heads of terms, which is basically the purchase price that you've agreed to pay the vendor and how long before you have to complete on that property. 9 months, for instance. That's really the only two terms that get added into the contracts that the solicitors generate. you're going to price and schedule all the works in because you're going to want the refurbishment to happen as quickly as possible to get your profits. And you want your contractors going in the day after exchange, if not before. So if you need to order new windows, you need to be ordering them as soon as possible to make sure that they're ready to install, pretty quick after exchange. Because if you've agreed 9 months and you've not completed that sale in 9 months, you've got to either give the property back to the vendor so she benefits from the refurbishment, or you have to complete on the property yourself. Okay, so time is of the essence. This is why you want to speed things up. You're going to complete the works as quick as possible, instruct an estate agent to market it, and then once the buyer is found, as I've said, the estate agent or you will instruct solicitors between the buyer and the vendor. So it's a very, very simple process. Now, with a traditional flip, you're going to be paying this additional 5% stamp duty. You're going to be tying up your funds for the duration of the refurb. So that's the purchase price and the cost of the refurbishment, or you might be tying up your investor funds. Because you're tying up all the funds and paying this hefty 5% stamp duty, you can't really afford to do flips on these larger properties, your 4 and your 5 bedroom houses. Okay, it's just not commercially viable for you. You're tying up too much money. And obviously you're limited to how many you can do. So most of you will probably be experiencing buying a property, doing it up, getting it on the market, looking for your next one, and then trying to tie it in so that you can actually use the sale proceeds to buy your next one. So you can probably fit 2 or 3 flips in a year. Okay, so it's a slow process. So you'll all be experienced with that kind of model. Now, compare that with the assisted sale. You are not buying the property, so it's low money down for you. Okay, you usually pay a deposit. So literally it's the cost of the legal fees to get into the deal. Because you're not buying the property, there's no stamp duty to pay. So that's another massive saving for you. So your margins are now increasing on this flip. Because you're only paying for the cost of the refurbishment, you're not going to be put off with these big expensive houses, your 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 pound flips, because you're just paying for the refurbishment. So you've got no competition from builders or developers that want to refurbish the property and flip. You've got no competition from buy-to-let investors because these priced houses don't actually cash flow, so they're not attractive to the buy-to-let investors. And your only other competition are your homeowners. But even they want properties that are ready to move into now. Or if they agree a purchase rather, later on down the line when the survey comes back and they realise how much it's going to cost to do all this work, they normally pull out or try to renegotiate. So you've got very, very little competition here. And when you educate the estate agents, as we're going to cover, the estate agents will start bringing you these deals before they go on the market, because you're going to save them a lot of hassle. And because you're only investing the cost of the refurbishment, and in my experience, you're probably talking between 25 and 40,000, you can do multiple flips. You can do them remotely. You can joint venture with a contractor in a different area. Okay, so you can scale really, really quickly. Now, I'm using this case study just as a funding comparison between a traditional flip and an assisted sale. So this is a 3-bed vacant house. It's actually had subsidence or subsidence, depending on where you're from. And it's unmortgageable only because the vendor's taken the kitchen out. Now, the insurance company has already done all the remedial work, so there's no issues with the property itself. £160,000 done up, £20,000 refurbishment, and the vendor only wants £100,000 to cover the cost of her mortgage so she can pay her mortgage off. So what was actually agreed was, it was an assisted sale. We converted it into a lease option, but it was an assisted sale at £100,000. So this is the important bit. If you'd have found this property and used bridging, it would have cost you 135,000 with the fees and with the purchase of the property and the £20,000 refurb. If you'd have bought it cash, you would have saved a little bit. Okay, you'd have only paid the 124. The assisted sale, you're paying 21,800, which is legal fees, your insurance, and the £20,000 refurb. So by using an assisted sale on this flip, you've saved yourself tying up £113,000. So you've now got £113,000 of yours or your investor funds to go and find other deals. So you're not losing your opportunity costs. So this is why you should never consider a flip without first looking at an assisted sale. Because whether they agree an assisted sale with you or not is literally just down to how you communicate the advantages. Okay. So the benefits for the vendor, and we're always thinking in terms of the benefits for the vendor. You know, I'm often asked about, you know, what's your number one rule in negotiation? It is to put yourself in the position of the vendor. How would they see your offer? You know, how would you see the offer if you were in their shoes? So some of the benefits that you're going to offer is, first of all, it's a guaranteed purchase price. Okay, and it's going to complete within a certain time, you know, 9 months, 6 months. So they know whatever happens, that the property will complete in that time. You can, because your margins are so much higher, because you're not paying for funding and you're not paying your stamp duty, you can pay the current price that they want, or even a little bit higher, you know, than the current value of that property given its condition, because you know how much you're going to make on the refurbishment. Okay, so even if they were to get an offer off somebody else, you can beat that offer if you wanted to. We've had somebody pull one out of an auction because we've been able to offer them £10,000 more. So even though it sold at auction, she pulled it back out and she sold it to somebody in our group. Okay, because we could afford, because there was such a margin in it, we could afford to pay her £10,000 more. What vendor's going to turn down an extra £10,000? The key is the speed of exchange. So as you're going to see when we're looking at how to approach them, is that either the property's been on the market a long time, or it's come back onto the market, or it's just going onto the market where we know it's not going to sell. So what you can actually do is you can turn around and say, I can exchange within 4 to 5 weeks. Okay, not 4 to 5 months, as with most sales. So the speed of exchange is very attractive to a lot of vendors, and it's very, very attractive to estate agents. And then you've got flexibility of terms. Now, when you exchange in 4 to 5 weeks, you can pay a deposit that's deducted off the purchase price if you want to, but I never have. In fact, I have once just because it was easier to do than not to do. Okay. The only time I see this being an advantage is when you're dealing with probate properties. Because what you can actually say to the vendor or the executor is, you know, I'm happy to release a payment to you on exchange for you to pass to the beneficiary straight away. So it's not tied up in the estate. How many beneficiaries are there? There's 2. Okay, I'm happy to pay £20,000 deposit and each of them can have £10,000 each. You know, when estates are tied up and people are waiting for money, you know, this is a major attraction for probate properties. So the benefits for the estate agent, although we do direct to vendor, you know, you will be working with estate agents. First of all, you're offering a price that's close to what their client wants. In fact, one of the first questions that we ask is, what would your client be happy to receive? We're not putting in a below market value offer. And bearing in mind, most of the properties that you're looking at to do a flip, because you can add value, they're run down, they need a certain amount of work. So they're going to be expecting below market value offers from not so professional investors, if you like. Okay, so here you're basically paying them a price that the client's happy with. You're reducing their workload. They know that they're going to be wasting a lot of time doing viewings and chasing people on phone calls. You know, they're going to be receiving bad feedback. They're going to be having to ask for price reductions from the vendor. If a sale is actually agreed, they know that there's a good chance that they're going to get down valued and they've got to come back and ask for a reduction, or it's going to fall through. 10 months later, the estate agent still hasn't got their fee. So the vendor's going to go with another estate agent. We know how this works. I'm going to explain this for when you're talking to estate agents. But with this, I'm happy to pay that price. I'm exchanging in 4 to 5 weeks. It takes all that hassle out of it for the estate agent. And this is why they will start bringing you deals before they go onto the market, because you've just made their life a lot easier. You're going to pay their fee on exchange in 4 to 5 weeks. Not on completion in 4 to 5 months is when they would normally get paid. Okay, so that's a major attraction for them as well, especially these young estate agents that have got the thin tie and the pointy shoes that want the money. Okay, they're going to get their commission in 4 to 5 weeks. And then if you want to build a relationship with that estate agent and you don't live in a land of silly estate agency fees where they're really, really expensive, you can offer them a second fee when they remarket the property for you and sell it to the buyer. So they get their first fee on exchange, and then when the property actually sells and it's done upstate, they'll get a second fee. So what estate agent is going to turn down 2 fees? But most of all, and we're going to cover this, is it's a very, very easy concept for you to understand, for you to explain to an estate agent. And it's a very easy concept for them to understand and recognize. So, I used to do valuations in my estate agency. I knew when the valuation paper arrived on my desk and I was like looking at comparables before my appointment, I knew they weren't going to achieve that price. If I didn't, by the time I walked in through their front door, I'm thinking they're not going to achieve this price. That's the time that they want to be contacting you. This is one that Mark would be interested in. I bet he would offer close to the asking price because he's going to do one of those assisted sale things. The benefits for you, of course, is that you've got no stamp duty to pay. And if you're looking at your £400,000 houses now, which is where the real money's made on the flips, okay, because you're selling to families that are happy to pay higher amounts. You're selling to families that want to get into a school catchment area. You're selling to families that can afford to put a bigger deposit down if it gets down valued. Okay, so there's no stamp duty. You're only paying for the refurbishment, so your return's higher. You've got less money tied up, so you've got a higher capital on investment return, or whatever the term is. I get so excited, I can't remember. And then you've got a short-term profit. So we're talking sort of 6 or 7 months, 9 months maximum. So this allows you to plan your taxes, if that's your thing. Okay, but it also allows you to be more accurate with your figures. You're not relying on market conditions. If I do an assisted sale now, today, I know that that's going to be on the market in the run-up to March. And March is when I'm going to get the best prices, because that's when the market tends to come back. The families come back because, it's spring now. There should be a little bit of sun in the air. You'll always get a better price. And you've got no lost opportunity costs. You've not tied up £300,000 in an investment. You've tied up some of your money in a refurbishment. So now you're just looking for other assisted sales, or you're saying to the estate agent, what else have you got that we can do this kind of delayed completion on? Okay, so there's benefits here. It's a win-win-win. Benefits for the vendor, benefits for the agent, benefits for you. Now, there's more exits. And the reason I've put so much information on the slides is that when you go back to these slides, or you're looking at the recording, you can use these to update your notes rather than just listen to everything that's been said. So your first one is you flip for profit. You've done the refurbishment, you're selling at a higher price. The second one is, if you've agreed £200,000 for the vendor with the vendor, okay, and you've done the work and it's now worth £300,000, and you want to hold that property as part of your portfolio, or to move a family member in, whatever, or to move into it yourself, okay, what you would do is you would take a mortgage and buy it off that vendor for £200,000, but the property is worth 300, so you're going to have more equity in it and a higher cash flow if it is an investment. Alternatively, you can buy it at the 200,000 for cash, but we know the valuation's actually 300,000 now, and refinance it straight away. Okay, because it's been over 6 months, because that was the delayed completion. And you've done a certain amount of work to it as well. Okay, so you literally borrow the money, a short-term investor, or raise it yourself, buy it, refinance it, get all your money back out, and you've now got a refurbished property. Or you can just convert it into a longer-term lease option. So that one that we actually looked at earlier on as the price comparison, that was agreed as an assisted sale for 9 months, but we extended it for a 2-year lease option because it worked as a buy-to-let. So you've got 4 strategies there, or 4 exits on the same flip. Property filter, ears are going up. So how to find assisted sales? Well, remember, this is a flip. So you're looking for something that needs work. Okay. But it doesn't always need a lot of work. I've done an assisted sale where straight away from the photographs, well, I've done a few actually similar to this, but this is an obvious one, that from the photographs, I knew straight away why it's not selling. It was crammed to the roof. The kids had moved out. They'd all gone to university. All the bedrooms were still full of everything. It still had the old carpets, but it was just absolutely full. Okay. And literally all I did was pay for them to go into rental accommodation so I could access an empty property, emptied it, put stuff in storage, wallpaper, painted, carpets, and sold it. I didn't even put a kitchen in it. Okay, a new kitchen. It was literally just tidying it up for a quick sale. So you're not always having to do work. You've got to see why it's not selling and think, if I do this, how much can I actually achieve a sale for? But what you're really doing is, when you're using property filter, I'll tell you exactly how I would use it, or how I use it. So you're looking for the larger dated properties, the things that you wouldn't normally look at in the price range where you think, I can't flip that property because it costs too much money. But remember, you're only paying for the refurbishment. So now what you can do, if you were only set property filter up to £150,000 for flips, depending on your area, you want to extend that now to £400,000, because a refurb's not going to cost that much more, and it's all relative anyway. Okay, so the ideal scenario is parents that are downsizing. They're in a 4 or 5 bedroom house. The kids have all moved out. They've not really spent that much money on their property because they've not had to. So it's got the old wallpaper and the old original kitchen and carpets and such. Okay, and they want to downsize. So all you've got to do is, if it's not empty, is move them out, do a light refurbishment, and then you can actually sell it. Okay, you know that it's going to sell because it's a family home in a nice area. Ideally, you want to look for empty properties, because remember, you want to get straight in there on exchange and start doing the refurbishment works. Now, often when they're selling a property, they will have somewhere that they can move out. So if you think of the parents that are moving out, the above example, they'd probably move in with the children for 6 months. Okay, but more and more, what I would recommend that you do is offer to pay for their rental for 6 months, so they can move into rented accommodation. Okay, but that's going to come off the purchase price. So although I'm paying 6 months rent up front or on a month-by-month basis, it's coming off the purchase price. So it's not actually costing me anything. But what that allows me to do is to get access to that property. Okay, so now what you're doing on property filter, you're looking for larger properties and you're looking for empty properties ideally, but don't be put off if it's not empty. You should really be knowing your area. So if a property comes on, you should kind of know what the price range is, or you can do your comparables. And then if you look at the condition and that seems too expensive for that condition, that's the perfect assisted sale. Okay, because you know that you're going to refurbish it, get the full price, and it's only going to cost you the refurbishment. Okay. And properties that have got potential survey issues. So if you think that it's got a quirky design, or you can see something, you know, there's a gutter that looks like it's disconnected for a while and the water's been seeping down the side, or it looks a few slates are missing. Anything that gets thrown up on a survey is likely to cause the buyer to come back at a later date and try to reduce the price with the vendor. or pull out of the sale. So you know when you see that property, even if it's sold subject to contract, there's a good chance that that might come back on the market. So you're going to let the estate agent know that you're interested. Okay, so what I would do now, and I would probably make a note of this if you don't want to wait for the recording, is I would go on property filter. I would set up a postcode of what the property that I'm interested in, and I'll use Nottingham as an example. So anything under £200,000 in Nottingham that's dated will get snapped up by investors and builders because they can still flip the property. Okay, so I'm setting my property filter minimum price range as 200,000. I don't want any properties under 200,000, and I'm not putting any maximum price on. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is, you can imagine you're going to have a screen with your postcodes, a screen of, let's just say you've got 30 properties that come up, and I'm just going to go along them, photographs only, and think that's not an assisted sale, that's not a flip, because it's too new, doesn't need any work. And I'm going to get rid of them because I'm using property filter just to get rid of everything that I'm not interested in. Okay. And you're probably going to be left with about 12 potential assisted sales. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at which ones are empty. Which ones have been on the market the longest? Which ones have had price reductions? Okay. What's the good one? It's just escaped me. Yeah, so you're just kind of looking at those. Ones that have been on with estate agents that you kind of already have an awareness of, that you know somebody to speak to. Sorry, Mr. Black, you were going to say?
Yeah, you were saying reduced, I was saying fallen through as well. And indeed, the agent thing, yeah.
Yeah. The only ones you really want to get off your property filter screen, okay, are the ones that don't need any work. Even if they've been on a long time, however, you still want to focus on them, because the reason that they might not have sold might be down to the agent's marketing, or they might have the wrong description. There was one that we looked at and it was advertisers with tenants. And that's the reason it wasn't selling, but the tenants had actually moved out, but the agent had never changed the description or the photographs. Okay. So there's often issues that you can spot. But that's the easiest way to start looking for assisted sales. Now, overall, I want everybody to remember time works in your favor when it comes to assisted sales. If it's just gone on the market, the longer that it's left unsold, the more frustrated that the agent and the vendor is going to be. So the more open to an assisted sale. If it's already been on the market a long time, again, they're going to be more open to an assisted sale. If it's fallen through and come back onto the market, again, it's a time thing. You know, they've agreed a sale months back, it's gone through progression, and now they've got to go through the whole process again. It all causes frustration. So imagine when you say, I can exchange in 4 to 5 weeks and offer you close to the price that you're happy with. Suddenly that's a breath of fresh air to these frustrated people. And the ones that have just gone on the market, they're really excited because the estate agent said, yeah, you're definitely going to get that price. You're going to let time work in your favor, because as it doesn't sell, that's when they'll start to get frustrated. That's when the agent will start to realize that they're going to actually lose the instruction. So the agent will actually say, is there anything you can do, Mark? So this is a typical assisted sale example. This is one that just came on Rightmove. I knew the area. It looked too pricey when I looked at the internal photographs. 5-bed detached in a good area. And as you'll see from the photographs, it's a very, very basic refurbishment. We're not looking at things that need building works or major works, because we're working to a deadline. We literally want to get in there and get out. We want to do the old ninja on it. Okay, get in, do the refurbishment, get it back onto the market. So if you look at this one, literally, it was a new kitchen, a new back door, rip the wardrobes out, decorating carpets. We don't even put lampshades up, and blinds. You don't need to stage properties. This 5-bedroom family home is going to sell whether you make it look staged or not. Okay, so some of you might enjoy doing it, but I personally wouldn't waste my time staging a property, because it's not going to actually make it sell any quicker. A new bathroom suite. If this was a low-end property, I wouldn't have put a new bathroom suite in. And I've absolutely done nothing to the garden. Jet washed the slabs, that's it. Because gardens can be a money pit. So if you do find a property that needs the garden landscaping or there's a few issues, I recommend that you always offer to knock something off the price rather than to try to do the work yourself. And you would just say to the vendors, look, I've not done anything with the garden, the buyers rather, I've not done anything with the garden because I don't know what the buyer wants. They might want low maintenance, they might want a lawn, they might want artificial lawn. So what I prefer to do is just knock a little bit off the asking price. It will save you so much time and money. Oh, and when you're talking about a refurb, you're not doing anything major. It's like a basic Howden's kitchen, just carpets, decorating, and new doors. You know, we're not doing a major overhaul. The only thing that we've done to the external building is put a new front door on. I don't know why they put a front door on. It already had one, but I didn't ask the question. They just did it. Okay. This is another example. These are actually two semis that we agreed to assisted sales on. I converted one into a lease option. But again, you look at this, it's nothing major. It's stripping the walls, it's repainting, new carpets, you know, painting the woodwork. You're not renewing the woodwork, new kitchen, new bathroom. And this is the one next door, which is like very 60s James Bond, I think. Again, you literally just put in new suites in. I didn't visit the property. The contractors knew what to do. They organised everything. If you don't know much about refurbishments, on this type of property where you've got two together, I would recommend joint venturing with a contractor. They use all their own resources, they pay for the materials, they use all their own contacts, they project manage it, and they'll turn it around quicker so that they can access the profit. Okay, and it's just saved your time. You've not even had to visit the property. So, how to explain assisted sales to estate agents? Okay. This is a little bit different from how you would explain it to direct to vendors, which we're going to cover as well. So what you've got to appreciate is that the valuers or the estate agents are used to investors. And, you know, I don't want to upset anybody, but most estate agents do not like investors. Okay. If they've got existing business with them, and they know that they're a definite buyer and they're using them to sell their properties, they will grow to like you. But initially, they don't generally like investors because a lot of them do think that investors are a waste of time. Okay. And we saw it in our estate agency as well. So you've got to learn how to communicate with an estate agency you come across as being different. And you've got to see things from their perspective. And what I'm going to do is, we'll normally do this by email, but I'm going to talk you through it just so it actually makes a little bit more sense. Okay. So the way you would have this conversation with the estate agent would be, I think we both know, Mr. Estate Agent, that this property is too pricey. It's on for too much money given the amount of work that it needs. Okay. Now, I know how this is going to work. You're going to get some offers below market value. Okay. And you've got to put that to the vendors. You're going to do lots of viewings. You're going to get feedback like, oh, it needs too much work, or lots of potential, or I want something that's ready for me to move straight into, or I'm interested, but I want to view some more properties. Okay, the estate agents heard all this so many times, you know, and I know what you're going to do. Somebody in your office is going to then have to keep phoning up for feedback and then reporting the feedback to the vendor. So I know how it works, but I also know why you've put it on at that price, Mr. Estate Agent. Because if you hadn't have put it on with that price, the vendor would have gone with another agent, one of your competitors that said that you could achieve it, that, you know, you said you can't achieve it, they say you can, you're not going to get that instruction. But now you've been instructed, Mr. Estate Agent, you've probably got a contract between 6 and 12 weeks. So you've now got 6 to 12 weeks to sell it. But we know it's not really going to sell at this price. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep going back to the vendor and ask for price reductions. And this is going to be uncomfortable for you because as soon as you ask for a price reduction, they'll say, but you said I could achieve that price. So you're not going to reduce the price. It's not going to sell. So in 6 to 12 weeks, you're going to lose that instruction to that estate agent that said they could sell it. So you've put all that work in for nothing. Okay. What price would your client be happy with? So let's just say it's a £300,000 on the market. I think she would be happy with 280,000. yeah, £280,000. I'm happy to offer £280,000, but the only way that I can offer £280,000 is by doing a delayed completion. And let me explain what I mean by that. Now, all you're doing here to the agent is you're giving them an overview. Don't expect the estate agent to remember any of this. You're going to follow it up with an email. Okay, so let me explain how this is going to work, Mr. Estate Agent. We're going to exchange contracts. We're both legally represented, and I'm agreeing to pay your client, if she accepts it, £280,000, which is a fair price. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay for and arrange a full refurbishment on this property. So the risk is with me. Now, Mr. Estate Agent, if I actually put a new bathroom in and a new kitchen and did all this refurbishment, what do you think it would be worth? I think it could be close to 400,000. Okay, then. So you know that your client's definitely going to get the 280,000. And even if I don't get 400,000, I'm happy to reduce it until it sells. But you know what, Mr. Estate Agent? You will get your fee on exchange in 4 to 5 weeks. Now, would you be happy if I actually put all that in an email to you for you to read to your client and forward the email on? So I'm happy to do all the work. You've literally just got to forward the email on. I'd have to have a look at it first, but yeah, it sounds okay. Okay. Now, just to confirm, when the property's been refurbished, Mr. Estate Agent, are you happy to remarket it for me in the done-up value? So the estate agent's now thinking I'm getting 2 fees. Okay. Now, all that estate agent is likely to remember driving back in their car is just bits of it. Does that make sense? So, points to note when talking to an estate agent is you're going to explain to the agent in general terms. I'm going to go and do the work at my own cost. We're going to remarket it at a higher price. Anything above what I've agreed to pay your client, I keep, but your vendor's getting the price that she's happy with. That's all they're going to really remember. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go home and you're going to do your lovely email. You're going to put your email offer together, explaining the delayed completion in a little bit more detail. And you're going to phone the estate agent the next day to make sure that they're sitting at their desk. They pick up the phone. They say, can I send you an email for us to actually read over the phone? Yeah, I'm at my desk. Email them, read through the email or let them read through the email and say, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you're unsure about? And because it's quite a simple email, they'll say, no, I'm happy with that. Say, would you do me a favor? Would you now phone your client while you're in the office, say that you've received an email offer from an investor, read the offer out to your client and then say, can I forward the email on to you so you can read it in your own time? Okay. And you know that's going to get forwarded on, because what you've said to the agent is what's going to happen now is you'll send the email on and they'll read it in their own time. They'll probably sit, this evening after tea and discuss it with each other. And they're likely to have 2 or 3 questions for you. They'll probably email you the questions in reply to your email. When you get these questions emailed to you, Mr. Agent, email them to me. I will answer them for you, send you the answers, and then you can actually send the answers on to them. Okay, so what you've said to the agent is, you've not got to think or understand this, okay, because I'm doing all the work for you. So the agent is now comfortable to put your offer forward because they know they're not going to get put on the spot. It's essential that the email is emailed to the vendors. Okay, they won't understand. If you're ever putting an offer in, never try to do it over the phone because people won't remember what's said. They need to reread it a few times because the objective of an offer is to get a reply from them, not to get an offer accepted. It's to get questions. So the benefits of working with the estate agents is, as we've said, it's a very easy concept to explain. They can identify the scenario easy. Yeah, it's a property that needs work and it's priced too high. It's not going to achieve that price because it needs too much work. You're doing the email for the agent to send on to their client. So you've made life easy for them. And what they're going to do is they're going to when they go out on valuations, they'll think this is a property that Mark would be interested in. Okay, so you will call Mark, you could apply this to yourself. This is a property that Mark's available. Let me see how much the vendor wants, and then I'll let Mark know, see whether he's interested in paying that, and I'll send him the photographs. Okay. If a property is being downvalued, you want the person in the office getting the phone call saying, the vendor's not going to accept that. I wonder if Mark would be interested in it. It's come back on the market. I wonder if Mark would be interested in it. Excuse me. Or if it's been withdrawal, I've got nothing to lose now. I wonder whether Mark's going to be interested in it. So any properties that need work, that are overpriced, that fall under any of those categories, they should be contacting you. Now, slightly different is when you explain it to a vendor. Okay, so this is where you do a direct-to-vendor viewing. And the easiest way to get direct-to-vendor viewing is to book an appointment out of office hours. Okay, provided that it's occupied. Now, this example is the property's just come on the market. Okay, so you've had one, you'll have one where it's been on the market for a long time and the frustration's already there. So it's really easy to, to pick up on their frustration. Have you had many viewings? Have you had any offers? It's been on the market for this long now, and I've noticed it's been reduced twice and it's still not sold. You're playing on their emotions. When a property that needs work just goes on the market, the vendor's very excited. Whatever you offer them, if it's not asking price, they're not going to be interested. They're not going to be interested in a creative solution because the estate agents told them you'll have no problem selling it at this price. And they're probably in a 12-week contract. So there's no point you putting any offers in at that stage. What you have to do is you have to sow the seeds of doubt. So the way that this might go is you've turned up to the property, the lady's there. I'm assuming it's a lady. Okay, you're building a little bit of short rapport because remember, you're looking at family type properties. So the chances are that all their kids have gone away. They've lived in the property a few years. There's a little bit of pride there. This is a great property. It's got so much potential because it is dated. They know it's dated. So much potential. You've lived here a long time. How long have you lived here? Oh, great. Is there anything, knowing what you know now, that you would have perhaps done differently? Would you have put an ensuite in? Would you have, opened up the dining room or something? Just to get that little bit of rapport going. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, I know that this has just come on the market and I've got no doubts that you're going to sell it. And I think you're going to achieve the price because it's got so much potential. So I'm not going to make you an offer. Okay. But if for any reason it doesn't sell, or you're getting feedback from the agents or from the vet or from the buyer saying that it needs too much work, or they're looking for something that they can move straight into, or it's a lovely property, but I've just started looking, I want to view some more. If you kind of get the feeling that it's not selling for any reason, drop me an email, contact the agent, give me a call. This is the key part, because there may be a way that I can offer close to your asking price. If they say, can you just put an offer in now? Just say, no, because I'm not going to offer you that asking price, and I think you're going to achieve it. Because you don't want to put an offer in now. You want her to become frustrated because it's not going to sell over the next few weeks. When a property doesn't sell after the first 2 to 3 weeks, vendors become frustrated. And remember, I've been an estate agent. You see this firsthand. So I've sown the seeds. And what's actually going to happen is after, either no viewings or a few viewings or a few lower offers or the general feedback that we've just covered, they're going to say, I wonder what that man meant when he said he could offer me close to the asking price. I'm going to find out. Okay. And then this is where you just lead into the assisted sale. So you're sowing the seeds there. You can do it with estate agents the same. Okay. But what we've said before about understanding it from their point of view, you would just say the similar sort of things. Mr. Estate Agent, I know what's going to happen here. This isn't going to sell. It's going to be on the market for a long time. You're going to lose it to competition. You're not going to get a fee. You've put all this work in. There may be a way that I can offer close to what your client wants now and cut all that work out and exchange in 4 to 5 weeks. So the final part is, how do you increase your conversion rate? So if it's new on the market, okay, you want to sow those seeds of doubt that we've just touched on. If it's been on the market for a while, you want to focus on the feedback and the frustration. So what's the feedback been over the last 4 months? Have you had any offers? If it's reduced or fallen through, focus on the certainty and speed. You must be really frustrated having waited all this time and you've got to go through the marketing again. I can exchange in 4 to 5 weeks. You've got certainty of sale. If it's not on the market, focus on the convenience. Yeah, I can appreciate you've had a couple of estate agents around, but you're going to market it for estate agencies. They'll always market it too high. You've got all these people wanting to view the property. Even if they buy the property, you've got 4 or 5 months for it to go through until it completes. With me, I can exchange in 4 to 5 weeks and you will have no estate agency fees. So you've got 4 very different angles covering your flips here to convert them into assisted sales. Some important notes. We're just coming to an end now, Mr. Black. I'm not going to run over. You'll be pleased to know. So you need to know your figures. So when you see one of these properties, first thing you do is you work out what the end value will be once you've done it up. Then you deduct your profit, whatever you want, a financial figure. Bearing in mind, you're only paying for the cost of the refurbishment. So if the refurbishment is going to cost you 30,000 and you can make £30,000 profit, you can afford to pay a higher purchase price if you want to. So then you deduct the cost of the refurbishment and that will give you what you can offer the vendor, and you'll find that you can normally offer the vendor what they want. You're not going to, you'll still manage their price expectations. Nobody goes in at asking price, okay? You're going to schedule the works in advance so that you can get in there the day after exchange. You're going to keep the vendor up to date with photographs. So just say to your contractors, can you send me some WhatsApp pictures every now and again? And all you're going to do is you're going to forward them on to the vendor. You don't need to go to the property. Because what you're doing is you're thinking marketing and you're thinking referrals. You want that person standing at the school gate saying, this guy is actually, I found somebody, he's kind of buying my property. He's actually paying for my property to be refurbished so that I can actually get the price I want. This guy is actually giving me the asking price when the estate agent's not been able to sell it. This is where your referrals start to come in. More so for lease options and assisted sales. Now, anybody that's seen the previous 2 presentations that I've done, I talk in terms of scenarios. Everybody's got a scenario. So with this, the scenario is basically it's a dated property that's priced too high. So the first thing you do for your conversion is step 1, understand the vendor scenario. It's an assisted sale. We've covered why it's an assisted sale. It's a sizable vacant property requiring works. It's overpriced for its current condition. It's easy for you to add value with a basic refurbishment, a new kitchen, a new bathroom and carpets. Okay, that's the scenario. Step 2, understand the potential problems. It's an empty property and it's got costs. The vendor's frustrated, the estate agent's frustrated, all the wasted times, the reduced offers, all the viewings, the feedback will start to wear them down. The estate agents hate giving the feedback when the property's not sold. They can either reduce the price or they can arrange for the refurbishment themselves. But they probably haven't got the funds and they probably haven't got the contacts. So they don't want to do that. But because it's been a family home, these bigger type properties, they want a fair price or they just want a sale. They've not been able to achieve that up to now. So step 3 is you need to understand, but you need to communicate the solutions to them as well. So you're going to cover all costs. From the date of exchange, Mr. Vendor, I will cover all your costs. You're not going to have any viewings or wasted times. If we can agree a sale now, we'll exchange it in 4 to 5 weeks. You've not got to have any more viewings. I'm going to fully refurbish the property and make it survey compliant. There's nothing that a surveyor is going to ask for an additional report on behalf of your future buyers. And what will normally happen is when the property has been refurbished, it will normally sell on first or second viewing because it will be ready for somebody to move straight into. and you've got certainty of sale close to the asking price. So they're the four main solutions. There's many. Step 4 is you communicate by email, never verbally, always by email. You're going to manage their price expectations to get to a figure that they're happy with. Don't just give them the asking price. You're going to include 2 offers in your email, a low offer that you want them to reject because it's too low, and offer 2 is an assisted sale price. And when they come back and say, well, offer 1's too low, so I can appreciate that. That's why I've included the second offer, because this is a way that I can offer you the higher price. So when they see 2 offers, they're actually saying one offer is better than the other. And that's obviously going to be the higher purchase price. As an estate agent and investor for years, the fundamental error that people make with offers is they put one figure forward. Big mistake. Always 2 or 3 offers. Never one figure. Never verbally. Always go for a 6-month delayed completion to begin with. Okay, anything above that's too long. But before you get to exchange, you will extend it to 9 months. Okay, because you need that extra buffer. So you'll say, Mr. Vendor, it's still going to take 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks to do the works. Okay, and it's both our interest to get this property sold as quick as possible because I want my profits out and the cost of a refurbishment out, and you want your balance. Okay, but I don't know who's buying it. So I've just put that extra 3 months on just as a bit of a buffer. But obviously, I still think it's going to sell in 6 to 7 months. Never had anybody turn that down. And the objective is the email just to get the vendor to ask questions. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because every question that you're asked and every answer you're given, you're taking them closer to acceptance and you're building a relationship. Because most assisted sale vendors will actually become fixed rate investors with you because they're receiving the proceeds. Family type properties, they don't tend to have mortgages. So it's a lump sum that's going into their account that you can offer them a fixed return on. And then you understand how it fits your plan. You're going to agree an assisted sale. You're going to do the refurbishment. You're going to sell to the target market. It could be an investor. Normally it's a family. Could be a couple. Depends on the property. And you're going to get your money out within 7 to 9 months. So it falls under profit strategy. You're not doing this for cash flow. You're doing it to get a nice chunk of cash into your bank account. Final top tips. Try and get access before exchange. Okay, what you'll say is, Mr. Vendor, it's in both our interests to complete this work as quick as possible so we can sell it. Do you mind if I actually send some contractors in just to start stripping wallpaper off, clearing the property out, you know, perhaps take your kitchen out, that kind of thing. They will normally give you access. It's not got to go through the solicitors. Consider a joint venture with the contractor for reasons that we've already covered. Market the sale before the works are complete, because a family will normally put a deposit down to stop it from going on the open market, getting into a competition war, and invite buyers to pay towards materials. You know, I'm showing you around now, you know, all the plastering's done. We're going to order a kitchen. If there's a particular type of kitchen or carpets that you want and you're happy to pay towards it, we'll have that fitted. Thank you. Sorry, yeah, that's just under the time, I think.
Wow, amazing. Thanks so much. As always, much appreciated. Can we have a look at the questions? Have you got a bit of time for us?
Yeah, it's up to you.
There's, I think, some confusion around exchange. So first question was from Trish quite early on. When you say exchange delayed completion, is that on yours or on the vendor's names? Does the exchange have to add consideration of another purchaser later on the sale? Basically, if you're going to clarify the mechanics of the,
terminology. Basically, exchange for lease options or assisted sales is when you actually sign and the paperwork exchanges with the solicitors for the option. It's not to actually buy the property. So what will actually happen is that you and the vendor will have contracts. They will exchange. Okay, and then what will happen is you're not committed to buy it, and when you find the original buyer, the end buyer, they will actually enter contracts with the vendor as a normal purchase. So it's a different meaning from when they exchange contracts. So we're not exchanging it with a view to complete. We're exchanging it because I become responsible for the property from that point. But if it doesn't complete in the 9 months, they get the property back. So exchange is just a formal contract
Yeah, yeah.
signing.
So there's some confusions. I've had to answer this question before, on other calls before, where people ask me the difference between a lease option and an assisted sale, and really the lease option is the way you control the property to do the assisted sale, in the view
Yeah,
to flip it.
they're both delayed completions. It's just terminology for investors. Assisted sale is more when a vendor has in their own mind that they definitely want to sell the property, and
Yeah,
you don't want to hold it for longer than it takes to actually, do the work and sell it. So an assisted sale is just literally a short-term lease option, but you're not
yeah.
taking over all the responsibilities for the property. For instance, you won't take over the mortgage, but both of them are just to control the property.
I have a quick
Also,
question there. If you use lease option, is it possible to sell it then without owning it, or do you have to go through the ownership before you sell it?
No. A lease option is just a longer assisted sale. So basically, if it's a 5-year option, you can sell it at any point within that 5 years, and you've never owned it. So yeah, you would just sell it to anybody, take the profit, and you won't pay the stamp duty because you've never bought it.
Great, thank you.
guys, so I will go through the questions in the chat, and in order. I see there's a couple of hands risen, and we probably move to you after. I'd recommend Jehan and Robert, if you want to put a note in the chat, and I'll come to you in order. Okay. Okay. So Evadne, the next one was how can the property be pulled out of the auction? Didn't they exchange at the auction? So that was one of the case study examples you had right at the beginning.
Yeah, on that particular case, there was an admin error. So the auction company were happy to agree with it, but normally they would normally allow, provided you cover their fees, depending at what point it's at. They would normally, if you cover their fees and paid their fees as the vendor, then they would normally pull it out of the auction company. Or depending on if the hammer had actually gone down, then they would need to get the buyer's permission to do it. Even if contracts are technically exchanged on the fall of the hammer, two parties can always come to an agreement, provided both agreements. So from that particular one, it had the sale agreed, but there was an admin error in it, which meant that they were quite happy to just let her take the property back without charging the fees, and the buyer obviously didn't have an issue with it.
Okay. Trish was asking who is paying the estate agent set of fees. The first one, second ones.
Yeah. So the estate agent's fees have to be payable by the vendor because they're the ones that the estate agent's got the contract with. But if you can imagine that when they need to pay it on exchange, they've not actually received any money for the sale, so they're going to have to pay it out of their own pocket. So what you can do is you can offer to pay the estate agency fees on behalf of the vendor and then have it deducted off the purchase price. So if the fees are £3,000, it would all be done through the solicitor. The solicitor would still pay the estate agency, but there would be a clause in the contract saying that £3,000 is being deducted off the purchase price. Okay,
Yep.
so you're paying them on behalf of the vendor, but it is coming off the purchase price.
Then there's a couple of questions from Diana on builders. So our first one was, most builders I have want a deposit of 25 to 50%, and then later on she had a question saying that basically struggling with builders because a lot of them seems to be booked up months in advance, so lacks a bit of flexibility to do this. Can you comment on that and builders relationship?
Yeah, it depends, because on these kind of refurbs, they're not big refurbs. So, I would never have a builder. I would go to independents. Now, I prefer to joint venture with plumbers because plumbers know more contacts and they want the central heating job in the bathrooms because that's where they make the money. But because they're not big refurbs, you would literally pull in an electrician here or say to your plumber, have you got an electrician that you can recommend? Because they're not big works. So, you're not going to have to wait for people. You could go to a local letting agent, for instance, and say, I'm thinking of letting this property after the work's been done. Have you got any contractors that you can actually recommend? You'll always find independent contractors. And that's what you want on these type of jobs. And try and stay, keep with the ones that aren't VAT registered to keep your costs down as well. So those ones that we've shown here, they're all done by independents, but the plumber just project manages them on site.
Creativity pushed to its best, yeah. Evan is asking, what if the vendor doesn't want to enter into a lease option agreement?
What, the assisted sale?
Yeah, sorry, sorry. The question was, what if the vendor doesn't want to convert to a lease option?
Oh no, you don't always have to convert to a lease option. What you've done is when you've agreed the assisted sale with them, you know, the 9-month period for you to refurbish the property, that they've already agreed. You know, most assisted sales you won't want to convert into a longer period anyway, because you're doing it to make the money on the flip. So there's no point you holding the property for a long period of time. It's just that sometimes you're going to get the lower value where they work as buy-to-lets. So it's worth sort of like having the option extended. But remember, you've entered this agreement to make the money on the flip, and they've already agreed to that.
Yeah, the next question was from David. So if I agree in assisted sale, there needs to be a legal agreement, and that is what you are referring to as exchange in 6 weeks, then start work after exchange, and we stipulate that we have to say on the final selling price. So, and we stipulate.
What happens is that, first of all, both of you will use solicitors. I always recommend you will always use a specialist solicitor, because if the vendor uses a solicitor that isn't a specialist, your solicitor can actually carry the other solicitor. But normally what you would actually say is, do you have a solicitor in mind, or would you like me to recommend one? And these aren't investors. They've probably not used a solicitor for conveyancing for years. So more often than not, they'll say, yeah, can you recommend one? So you are both using solicitors. From the date of exchange, you're taking over responsibility, but it's your decision on what you sell it for and how you sell it. The vendor doesn't have any say in that. Okay. So, you know, the vendor is getting the price that you've actually agreed. So they have nothing to do with the property from the date of exchange, from a decision point of view.
Mark, can you explain the sort of legal framework, because there seems to be some confusion. There's more questions here about yeah, just some confusion around this.
Yeah. Okay. So assisted sale is basically just a shortened version of a lease option, but the legal framework is exactly the same. So what's going to happen is the vendor agrees an assisted sale with you. The contracts drawn up by the solicitors are basically what is the purchase price and how long. So let's say 9 months. From the date of exchange, you become responsible for the property. So your solicitor will enter a register, an RX1, on the register, so that the vendor can't sell it to anybody else within that 9 months. Okay. And you've got access to do the work that you want to do. Now, I would recommend that you take over the building insurance policy, take a new one out, but you have it in joint names, because you can't take insurance out on a property you don't own. So you'll have it in joint names. That's the legal framework. And then what's going to happen is later on, you'll market it for the estate agent with the estate agent. And when they found a buyer, then the buyer is buying off the vendor. You're nothing to do with it. Okay. And then when on completion, the vendor is due to get their balance, their solicitor at that point will contact yours and say, would you remove that RX charge provided I pay you this money over, which is above the purchase price? So the only responsibilities you're taking on really are, I recommend gas, electric and water, because your contractors are using it, and insurance. If it's a lease option, you would just take on the added commitment of the mortgage payments, but not with an assisted sale. So it's very, very simple. It's literally just a very, very simple contract that covers everything. You don't really need to go through all the detail.
Evan is asking, can we go over how to find these properties on Property Filter again? I'd suggest watching the recording, so it will be made available shortly inside Property Filter. Mark went into it in quite some good details. We're gonna lack time if we go over it again. So yeah, do have a look at the recording and pause, and Mark's presentation was full of nuggets, so I'd recommend going through it again, going through the recording. Michael's asking a really good question. So is there anything you can do if you've not found a buyer and your time is up, basically after the 9 months?
Yeah, so you can control an awful lot, but it's all going to come down to what your profit margin is. Okay. because your profit margin is so much higher because you've not all got these costs, is you can reduce it. At the end of the day, all you can do is reduce a property to get it sold. Okay, so you've got the ability to reduce it to get it sold, and all it's doing is it's eating your margins away. But what's going to happen in real terms is that you're going to market it at 2% higher. I'm going to get technical now, 2% higher at least than you expect to sell it for. Because if it doesn't sell straight away, you want to reduce it after 10 days by 2%, so all the portals actually send it out as a new alert. Okay, but all you want to do is just reduce it the maximum of 3 times. But what you've got to remember here is that it's a family type accommodation that's been refurbished for them to move straight into. Okay, and you've got plenty of time to agree a sale. What's going to happen is at a certain point, you might get 2 buyers interested. And then what you've got to do is look at who's in the best position to buy. If there's a cash buyer, you go with them. If they're a first-time buyer, try and stay away from them. If they're in a trade chain, try and stay away from them. You've got to look at who's actually putting the offers in at the time. But you've always got more room to reduce the price. So I've never made less than 80,000 on an assisted sale. But if I actually reduced it 30,000, I'd still be happy with £50,000. But do you think by reducing the property by 30,000, it will sell? Definitely. So having that extra time just gives you that little bit more time to keep reducing it, or go on with another agent if you feel that that's necessary. I've never had a property go over the term.
Yeah, awesome. Karen's asking, on Property Filter, there doesn't appear to be a calculator for assisted sales. Well, how did Mark explain what were assisted sales? It's like a flip without the cost. So you go into the flip calculators and you don't put a deposit, you don't put stamp duty. And here we go. You've got an assisted sale deal calculator. Yeah. Thank me later. Someone's asking, can we have the templates of the emails? This is one of Mark's top secrets.
No, all I can say is to you is that all you're going to do is in the email, you're going to explain briefly the benefits of the assisted sale. Exchange within 5 to 6 weeks. You always got to include at least 2 offers because you're directing their attention to the one that you want them to accept. But the email's just got to be short and to the point, because all you want them to come back and say, ask you a question such as, why does it have to be 6 months? Well, the work's only going to take 4 to 8 weeks, but obviously we need to put it on the market, and the average conveyancing time is 4 to 5 months at the moment. Okay, so yeah, that's all I can say on that. I can't give you templates, unfortunately. No.
Yeah, that's awesome. People asking for the recording. So the recording is going to be inside Property Filter shortly, usually by tomorrow. So that's one of the benefits of being a member. Lots of thank yous, Mark. How do you market before the works is completed with no pictures? How does that work in practice?
Yeah, because again, you can do it on lots of properties, but remember, under a certain price, they're just going to get bought by investors anyway. So you will find that most of your assisted sales are family type properties. So what's going to happen is when you start doing work, your contractors are literally just going to leave the doors open and windows are open, and a neighbour or somebody passing will always pop their head around and say, oh, who's moving in, or what's buying, what are they doing with this? And they'll just say, we're refurbishing it to sell on the open market. Do you know anybody that's interested? And what will happen is people will pass their numbers to your contractors for you to give them a call. Okay, so the best time to start actively sort of pushing that side of things is when the plaster work's done and you've started to get some of the carcasses in, so people can actually see that it's going to all be refurbished. And then that's the point where people will say, I'm very interested in it. What purchase price is he looking at? What's he asking? Or you can put it on with an estate agent at that point. Or you can even go back to the estate agent that was marketing it previously, because they've still got all those people that viewed the properties, but it needed too much work. So they can go back and say, that property that you viewed, that all this work's been done, would you be interested in a viewing? So there's plenty of things that you can do.
Awesome. Mark, Robert was asking me, was asking you really, Mark, about the type of profits you would do. Usually looking at 20K, but you're saying you wouldn't do an assisted sale for less than 80K, Mark. Is that?
No, I mean, I would do it. I mean, everybody's investment plan is different, but at the end of the day, it's all relative to what you're putting in. So, for instance, if you're doing a joint venture with a contractor and not putting any money in, and you can still clear, definitely 15,000, or 20,000 because your figures are conservative, then it's worth doing. What you've got to do is start balancing your time. Now, you are conservative with your figures when working out the calculations, but you'll often find that the refurbishment comes in lower. You always get a better price from a family that's looking at moving into the property. So I personally have never had anything under 80,000, but when I actually look back on the slides when I've been with other people, my profit target on one of them was 40,000, but it cleared 80. Okay. The bigger the house and the more work's needed, the bigger the profit margin.
Yeah.
It's all relative to what you're putting in. So it's down to your personal plan.
Questions around solicitors? Do they need to be specialists? Can you use sort of templates of agreements, or would you go to solicitor
Always a
every
solicitor,
time?
because the value of a solicitor, that if it was to ever get argued, that you could, when I was at law school, I was always taught, consider yourself standing in front of the judge. What would you say to them? So if I was standing in front of the judge and I could say both parties were represented by solicitors, the judge isn't going to listen to them. So the value is having solicitors represent them. It's not necessarily the contracts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely have a specialist solicitor because you control the speed of it.
So how much does it cost, the legal paperwork of lease options and to do assisted sales compared to 1,100?
Yeah, but I've seen companies out there that will do it for 695 plus VAT.
Oh, wow.
I tend to use the same company, so I pay about 1,000, but there are cheaper solicitors out there.
Okay. Do you have solicitors you can recommend?
I use MS Law, always have done since 2012. And what I would say to you, if you do a deal, go to your solicitor and say, what other solicitors are you working with at the moment on these type of deals that are actually quite fast, because solicitors can get inundated quite quickly.
Awesome. Okay. So what if the seller wants to split the uplift profit? Have you had the case before? Have you offered this before?
Yeah, sometimes you can. I mean, there's so many ways because it's creative at the end of the day. I've never had a vendor ask that of me. Okay. What I used to do when I started off, because cash was an issue, I would say, would you be interested in investing in the refurb for a split of the profit, a share of the profit? So it becomes more like a bit of a joint venture. But what I personally like to do is I like to keep them out of it. I don't want to give them an uplift, because if they're getting an uplift, they cannot argue about, well, I think you should have received a higher price. I've done these since 2012, and I've never had a vendor ever want to have anything to do with the property once they've left it. They've not wanted to question anything. They see you as doing them a favor. They don't visit. They don't email you or anything. They literally just walk away. Same with lease options. Never do they keep in contact.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, no, so that answers another question here. So David was asking, do you keep in touch with the vendors later?
No, they've got my email. I don't really speak to vendors. They've got my email and I've got their email. On an assisted sale, because it's a short period of time, what will generally happen is the next time they get an email from me is just to let you know I've agreed a sale and I'm going to be sending you details to instruct the solicitor. And then that's it. If it's a lease option, so it's like over 5 years, what will happen is if there's a rate change, what they'll do is they'll just drop me a message saying that the mortgage has changed to this, because I like to pay the lender direct. Other than that, no, you don't really have any contact at all. I get Christmas messages every now and again off some of them.
And so the 9 months, this is the time frame to complete, right? It's not to get an offer accepted, just to be clear.
Yeah. Just because you don't know how long the person is that's buying the property is going to be in a chain.
Any tips on doing JVs with contractors for refurbs?
Yeah. All you do is get a price off a couple of them. If they come in and say that the work's going to cost £20,000, say, would you be interested in a joint venture or a profit split if I give you 25,000? Okay, all you're doing is you're going to offer them a little bit more than what they would get if you were just paying them for a standard job. You've got to make it attractive to them. And then they say, what do I have to do for it? I said, just use your accounts, you pay for all the work, you arrange it all, I'll deal with the negotiations and the agents.
Yep. And so we've covered this already, Mark, sorry, but you set your assisted sales to 9 months, and you've always figured out, always made it so that you always complete it before the 9 months. But to be clear, if you don't, you would technically have to give back the property to the vendor, yeah?
Yeah, that's the risk with assisted sales. If it doesn't complete in that time, you can still agree between yourselves, we'll extend it, but because you've technically already exchanged, the vendor's not got to agree. Okay, so you can't risk that. So you want as long a period as possible. But when you're negotiating on the deal, if you ask for more than 6 months, it's going to sound too long to them. But then as you're getting closer to exchange and you've got that bit of relationship and everything's progressed as exactly as you said, you're going to get your contracts within a week, it's going to take 4 weeks. Before exchange, and you say, can we extend it another 3 months? They're not going to say no because they're nearly there. Yeah. Okay. If it's a Christmas period and contractors aren't working, you can say, I need to extend it another month because I thought it was going to exchange by now, and obviously it's Christmas. But you'll not get any of them sort of say no, because they just want the property sold, and they still know that you're going to do the work as quick as possible and try and sell it as quick as possible.
Awesome. Okay, we've got just 3 more questions, Mark. Thanks so much. Dean's DM'd me saying he's been on a viewing this morning, and the owner passed away and has no beneficiaries. The proceeds are going to charity. Could you do an assisted sale?
Yeah, it's just finding the right person in the charity, and the charity will want to tick boxes by putting it on with estate agents, but you've still got the same problem. If they're not achieving the price that they want, or it's not selling, you're still happy to go through the estate agent. You're just doing it as a delayed completion. So it all comes down to, your property is not sold, it needs too much work, this is a guaranteed sale. A charity is probably going to be more open to it because they're not chasing a deadline. And if you turn around and say, I'm actually going to take over the costs of the property, the council tax and the utilities, well, the charity, it's even better for them, isn't it? Because they're going to be getting a little bit more.
Okay, awesome. And so I think the other questions we've answered and clarified already. So Jayhan, you had a question? Did you want to type it in? Or... Don't know.
Can I ask verbally, Guillaume? I
Yeah,
think
okay.
it will be easier.
Okay,
Hello,
yeah.
Mr. Slack. How are you?
Ask a question.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Guillaume, bringing Mark. It was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. There are some nice, familiar faces. I am very pleased. Thank you very much for letting me answer my questions. Mark, I have secured a lease option in Manchester quite recently, but it is a typical assisted sale, really. Because of the special circumstances of the vendor, I end up agreeing on lease option for 5 years. To secure the deal, I had to pay a little bit more than usually I pay as initial option fee, and also I had to pay extra top-up fee. So I am asking whether you could recommend any other exit strategies at this point, because I have huge incentives. I don't want to lose these advantages now.
Yeah, the simplest one would be if you say it's an assisted sale type property, probably I'm guessing that you're going to increase the value of the property with a refurbishment. Yeah,
that's correct.
Well, yeah. Even if it's a 5-year lease option, you do the works and then you put it on the market to sell straight away. So if you sell it within 9 months, you'll get your money back in 9 months. You've not got to wait 5 years. So treat it as an assisted sale, flip it as quickly as possible. And then obviously you've not got any ongoing payments after the date you sell it.
Of course. Yeah. What I meant really, because I have extra incentives, advantages like top-up fee deductible and the capital element of the monthly mortgage payment is deductible, I feel it is a shame really to lose these advantages. Do you think it will be viable to explain to another investor these advantages? Instead of using as a assisted sale, perhaps I can assign to another investor.
Is it a family type property?
That's correct. Yeah.
Find a tenant buyer. If you've got a 5-year lease option, find a tenant buyer for 4 years so that you're paying down the debt. So you've got an interest-free loan on it. The tenant's actually paying you rent and a top-up, so it will actually really cash flow well. But the tenant buyers are actually investing in their own home now, and it's completely passive and hands-free for you. So yeah, there's that option if you don't want to just flip it on.
That's great. Thank you very much. It was very helpful, Mark.
No worries,
Thank
Jan.
you. Nice to see you.
So Jan, I believe I introduced you to Mark last time around when Mark came to speak here the first time, right? Was it?
Yeah, I am privileged, really. Thank you very much. I know Mark from the past, really. I benefited hugely, and he's also running new program. If anybody interested, I highly recommend, really.
Yeah,
it is life-changing. His techniques.
How many lease options you done this year?
Wow, everybody asking these questions. Yeah, just over a half a dozen in the last 12 months,
Well
I
done.
would say. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Without Mark's help and guidance, I don't think it would be possible. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, thanks so much. So we made the most of it, didn't we? So thanks so much for all the questions and everything. Thank you so much, Mark. Do you have any sort of closing sentiment? Any other shares, Mark, you want to share?
No. Obviously, the main benefit of the assisted sales at the moment is that 5% stamp duty. So, one way that you'd explain it to estate agents is that if I've got to pay an extra 5%, it doesn't work. You make it worth me buying it. The only way that I can actually offer close to your asking price is with this delayed completion. So I can actually pass some of the savings on to your client. So, 5%, everybody understands that now, and it's a slap in the face for investors. So you've got reduced competition again. So play on the 5%, play on the expensive bridging loans, and just say that, because I'm not having to take out a loan and I'm not having to pay the stamp duty, that's how I can pay more in my offer to your client. If we do it the traditional way, that's why I've actually had to put the reduced offer in. But this is a way that I can offer you closer to the price that you want. And you'll get a reputation for being an investor that works with people rather than just putting in low offers. And that's what estate agents want.
Awesome, Mark. Thanks so much. So I do recommend everyone to connect with Mark on Facebook. Is that the main place for you, Mark?
Yeah, I don't do anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Old school.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for today. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. And again, recommend everyone to connect with Mark on Facebook. He's quite active, shares some tips always, and always gets involved in when we do charity things. If you want to see Mark and I sweat on hurting ourselves running around places for charities once in a while, it's the place to go. So thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you for spending the time with us so far. And thank you so much, Mark. In the meantime, visit propertyfilter.co.uk, log on to your Property Filter account, have an endless supply of deals, join the top 1%, and become a high achiever deal finder. Do more deals in less time. I hope you enjoyed today's Deal Finder Corner. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.